for so many years, a decade, your core was Tuca, Marchand, Krejci, Bergeron, and now, there's been some moving parts with that over the year. How you feel and when you had identified, McAvoy, Pastrnak, Brad kind of bridging that gap, and how comfortable you guys moving forward with them leading your team?
Well, we have been incredibly fortunate over, during my time here in management with Zdeno and Bergeron and Rask and Krejci, really had a unique group of guys that established a very strong culture and willingness to do what it was going to take to try and win, put themselves in a position each and every year to win. And fortunately, we've been able to incorporate, whether that's Pastrnak and Marchand, just to name a couple, and obviously Brad being named captain this year as an extension and part of that core. You got to continue to integrate younger players that are capable of being leaders both on and off the ice, and as an extension of what was previously in place. I mean, you can go through the list over 100 years that we're going to celebrate. You realize it's been an awful long history and rich history of players of that nature. You're always trying to find the next ones that can be part of that. It's what keeps you up at night in terms of what's going to continue to sustain the winning environment and mentality that we want to preserve each and every year, and the competitiveness that we have. And players that you mentioned are doing a really good job, and the next wave have to continue to learn under the previous regime.
Yeah, I think Marshy's been part of that core for a while, and you've seen Charlie and Pasta start to get exposed to that, but now it's their team, and that's exciting for them. They've learned under great players and leaders, and I think there's other players to support them now, whether that's Lindholm and Carlo on the back end, and then you have up front Coyle, Zacha, those kind of players that are ready to be. This is their team now, and I think you're going to start seeing that excitement come out Wednesday night.
Donnie, it's for you. With Poitras, you were here as a player, right? No, you missed Bergeron by 1 year. I think we had that combo, right?
Played against Bergie.
You played against him, okay. But when you see a kid like that come in that young, what's it like just in terms of the way you've seen him right now, the way the poise he's shown? He seems so calm out there. What has that been like for you guys to watch?
Well, the first thing we try and do is temper expectations internally and externally in terms of what we expect from a young player. You get excited about the things you're throwing at him and the challenges that we talk about internally and the coaches discuss and then bring back and have on a wider scale. And it was part of that. Monty talking about, well, let's push this, let's play him back to back, and then 2 nights later in a road game against a pretty heavy Ranger team and in a road environment where you're not going to hide kids and be able to hide kids on the road or hide any player for that matter. And just seeing what he could handle and how he's going to respond the next day. And that'll be the continued challenge for any young player. The consistency is really the benchmark. It's whether or not you can survive and play in the National Hockey League and move forward. And that'll be a continued evaluation for he and in this case Johnny Beecher as well, or any young player throughout our lineup and the players that we have in the organization. It also probably perks up other players that we asked for a surprise at the start of training camp, and lo and behold, we have one here in the precipice of opening our season, and we're hopeful it continues. But ownership will be on each and every one of us and the coaches in particular to support the young players and see how far they can take it.
And does their arrival, does that show to you that the youth movement you've been talking about, it's been coming, is it here now in your eyes?
I don't think we've ever tried to just take one particular path. When a player has been able to help us, we've tried to incorporate them. And we talked about this the other night. Cam and I were talking about going way back with David Pastrnak, and he was having a pretty good year in the American Hockey League. He went to the World Juniors. He came back and played in his 9th game and scored two goals against Philadelphia. And lo and behold, he's in our lineup for the rest of the year, and has become a tremendous player. Call it arguably a top 10 player in the National Hockey League. So you never know the timelines. You just try and support through the development process, whether that's through the draft or through college free agency or however players are in trades are brought in, and try and cultivate through a winning environment. And when kids are ready, players are ready, give them their opportunity. If they take advantage of it, that's on them. They've earned it.
Don, when you drafted Patra, did you ever expect him to make this kind of a turnaround so quickly and impact the lineup this fast?
I mean, every guy would like to sit up here and tell you that's exactly what we expect. You know, you don't know the timeline. You know, your scouts do a really good job of canvassing and bringing to the table and players that you know, they're trying to project all the time. It's a difficult exercise. These kids are, you know, they're starting to follow them at early ages, but 17, 18 years old, and you just don't know. You know, we've gone over, you know, past history of our own, you know, when we've integrated players around the league and how players have fared 1 year, 2 years, and you're trying to balance that out. It really comes down to every individual. It is not just a, you know, painting with a wide brush with any particular group of players. You're just hopeful that you know, players are going to be ready, you know, when you need them, and Matthew has stepped forward every challenge thus far. We'll see if that continues. We're hopeful it does, and it's a credit to him.
This question is also for Don. Expanding on that question about leadership, specifically with Charlie McAvoy, how have you seen him evolve in that facet of him? He mentioned this summer about sort of protecting the legacy of Bergeron. How have you seen him over his time here?
Well, I think it starts with Charlie on the ice and his presence and what he commands in all situations when he first arrived in the National Hockey League, and not really being, you know, afraid of any moment. And now you're starting to see that translate off the ice and in the locker room and in leadership roles, that he can speak about. You know, read a comment about wanting the embrace with Bergeron to linger a little longer because, you know, had he known it was definitive, that he would have. And those are just things to be able to be comfortable in your own skin and I guess lend your own experiences to your current teammates that allow other people to be comfortable. And I think that's all part of the leadership process, and Charlie's done a nice job of integrating himself, not being a race to do it, but anxious and eager to provide that stuff on and off the ice.
Scott? Donna, where do things stand with Mason Laura, and from here, what goes into, you know, the decision, the pros and cons of either starting him in the NHL or having him start the year in Providence?
Well, I didn't want to leave Mason out when I talked about Poitras and Johnny Beecher. You know, Mason's made our decisions really difficult. He's played well. Again, we've put him in similar situations that with Poitras and playing him up and down the lineup and in situations that, again, on the back end, you're not going to get hidden. You're going to get exposed, if anything. You know, and he's logged a lot of minutes. You know, we've continued to work on his habits without the puck. I think everybody starts to see the talent and the vision that he has, the creativity, the confidence to be able to execute offensively, whether that's from his own goal line or the offensive blue line. And you know, the biggest adjustment in the National Hockey League is really is defending against you know, the top players and any players in the National Hockey League, because they lean on you and they press you. And Mason's going to have to continue to go through that. There will be some growing pains associated with it. We haven't made a final decision about what our top six will look like, you know, but we have a pretty good idea. So we have one more roster decision to make before we hit opening night, but Mason's made a difficult decision.
Hi, Charlie and Cam. I've got to get you guys involved in this thing.
You don't have to.
The couple of other times in the 21st century where there's been like cataclysmic roster change, there's usually been a new vision, a new GM, new leadership, new hockey ops. What have been the keys for you guys to feel as confident as you have been through this giant roster change, and maybe with the added pressure of the Centennial season thrown into all of that?
Well, for me, I mean, you go off of go back a couple of years when we made a coaching change, very difficult decision, a great coach, but we decided to make a change there. We bring in Monty, and you know, you saw the year that we had last year. So you know, even though you're losing Patrice and David, those are tough losses, but that happens in the world of sport. And you know, we saw it. Now again, there's more than just those two out of our lineup from last year's playoffs, but we saw games 3 and 4. You know how we played without those two players in our lineup. You know, I think it was said earlier. You know, Charlie and Pavel, I mean, they got to be excited about the opportunities they're going to get. And then, you know, a guy like Matty coming in and making tough decisions for us and being a nice surprise. So, you know, it's really about what we think we can still accomplish, what we still have to look to do to improve our club. But it's really the players that came to camp. It's what are they going to do to help us improve as well.
Yeah, no, I agree wholeheartedly with what Cam just shared. Yes, this is a very special year, a Centennial year, and I believe we all feel a little added pressure. Not that we don't feel pressure every day to produce, but this is a special season upon us, and what a great way to kick it off with these kids, these surprises, as Cam and Don have alluded to, and Monty. This is an opportunity for all of us, and we look at it that way.
Just as a quick follow, Charlie, this place has become a destination. I'm old, so I've seen a lot of iterations of North Station, not every one of them, but I've seen a lot of these iterations over the years. And right now it's become this, I think whether young Bruins fans have tickets or not, they're mobbing this area now on game day. They love to be here. It's a place to be and seen and be seen, all that stuff. And how big has that been to having this season come along right now when you finally got North Station looking like you hoped?
Well, thank you. It's funny. I ran into Jeff Gorton, our former assistant GM, at the NHL meetings last week, and he made a very similar comment, saying it was interesting to walk into the Garden and not have to get dripped on by the elevated T line. And we have come a long way since those days. I'm incredibly proud of what has become of the TD Garden and the Hub on Causeway. This is by and large part an effort of a group, not a singular effort by myself, but really a group of people and great people that have put a lot of hard work into making this building what I think is one of the best venues in North America.
Cam, could you follow up on what you were talking about with the center depth? I'm curious as to what your thoughts are on that. And as a follow-up to that, what it's going to take to compete in an ever-challenging East Division to keep up with the Joneses, so to speak.
Well, I still feel pretty confident about our club. You know, obviously, when you lose, you know, your top two centermen, that's a big gap to fill in. It's very difficult to replace one of them, let alone two, especially when you know you have some cap constraints like we did, and you know we were planning for it. I mean, we knew these guys were eventually going to retire. But it's, you know, we still have some quality NHL players in our lineup that have played in the National Hockey League, played the center position. Now it's really a matter, can they elevate their game to a level where we can get some offense out of it. I mean, I think goaltending, defense, our wingers are all, you know, look at our top six. It's pretty solid compared to the rest of the National Hockey League. So it's just really a matter of can those guys help contribute a little bit more offensively than they have in the past.
This is for whoever wants to take it. Getting back to the younger guys, Lowry, Beecher, Patra, it's easy to see the progress they make during games and practices, but how do you make sure that they're ready for the off-ice grind of an NHL schedule, the amount of games, the travel, all that goes into that?
Me? Yeah. Well, I think it's important that we're communicating to them daily about what the expectation is, because they haven't been through it, to help them realize what the expectation is, and that in this league you got to be firm, you got to be prepared, and you got to be ready to go. And we have, fortunately, a lot of good veteran players that can help them with the off-ice habits that they need to accrue into their everyday life. And then I think as coaches, we got to help them with the mental side of how they need to prepare daily in order to give them the best chance to have success, and ultimately the team.
Jim, I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about how you might address the team before the opener Wednesday. What sort of message you give them? Do you reference the disappointment of last spring? Does it go unmentioned because everyone knows what happened? And also, if you could talk about maybe how differently you feel in this spot as opposed to a year ago at this time.
Yeah, well, the disappointment of last year, I think, with the gentlemen up here, we've had a lot of discussions, and I've had a lot of discussions with the players, so that's in the rearview mirror for us. So that's not about what's going to transpire this year. We're talking about making the playoffs and how we're going to go about doing that. And as far as what, my opening speech is going to be, I got a couple ideas in my head about how I'm going to do it, but it's definitely going to be pushing them towards, what's in front of us, the opportunity, is some form of a message that way. And then what was the third part about how I feel this year compared to last year?
Yes.
Yeah, I feel more comfortable, this year, because I do know 65-70% of our lineup. I'm used to working with these outstanding gentlemen that are up here. So the lines of communication there and the comfortability of having hard discussions and discussions about everything, whether it's, with Don and Cam or whether it's with the captains, it's much easier to have. So that way I'm a lot more comfortable, a lot more, I guess, confident.
Don, a couple questions about Swayman. First off, why did you feel that the 1-year award was going to be beneficial for you guys?
Based on the fact we couldn't find common ground on a multi-year deal was probably the first indication that it was going to be the best path. And again, it puts Jeremy right back in a really good situation, as we expect him to be a top flight goaltender and challenge for, despite having a Vezina winner, riding shotgun with him. The way Jeremy is wired, he feels he's as good, if not better, and wants to be the go-to guy. So those are good problems to try and sort through, and having motivated players that again have confidence as well as talent is a good thing for us as an organization, and especially in such a key position.
It's not easy to go through that kind of process for any young player to see the comps and the business side of it. How do you think he's wired in terms of, I know it's been a few months, but in terms of seeing that, going through the process and then progressing to the next step?
Yeah, having gone, the doorstep as a player and knowing the process from both sides, it's uncomfortable. Perfectly honest with you, it's just uncomfortable, and you hope to avoid it. You don't see a lot of guys go, but when you do, you just make sure that you're 100% forthright in the fact that separate the business and the personal side of things, and realize that there's a lot of lawyers on both sides that are trying to position accordingly, and try and remove that, and realize that he's such a big part of our hockey club and what we accomplished last year, and certainly moving forward, and every opportunity is right in front of him to grab a hold of it and find a level of compensation and contract that'll really make him happy.
This question is for Charlie. With the NHL's continued commitment to global series and going international, I just wanted to gauge what the franchise's interest was going forward and commitment to maybe playing internationally again.
Absolutely. We've raised our hand a few times as a franchise to participate in whether it was a kickoff series in Europe. We have some discussions, in fact, about even going to Australia this preseason. Given all of the moving parts of our Centennial celebration, we elected not to participate. But I would encourage, and Cam and I talk about this often, how do we get on the radar for the next event? Maybe that's next fall, who knows? I don't have a crystal ball, but we'd love to participate and help grow this game beyond the United States and into Europe and possibly other areas.
This question is for Jim. With the Centennial in mind, how much emphasis do you place on educating the players about the history of the organization, even connecting them with alumni so they get a better understanding of where this organization came from?
Well, I think the opportunity to, have some of the legendary players that have worn Spoke B, they're going to be around a lot more this year, have them integrate with our players, I think, and maybe speak to the team, I think will help with that. But I think with the great job that you all do with social media and, remembering the great days of Bruins history and tradition, I think they see that a lot because today's players, they're a part of social media, it's part of their upbringing.
This is a question for Cam. You mentioned before the need to get into inside ice, get to the net front. When you look at guys like Lucic, Van Riemsdyk, Geekie, I think this team's better equipped in that capacity.
Well, those guys certainly don't mind getting in there, so that's a good thing. Those are the areas that you'd like your players to get to, because those are a little tougher to get at, and those are where opportunities, probably more opportunities to score come from. So, with the addition of those guys that are that historically have liked to live in that area, it's a good thing for us.
Sure.
For Charlie, I would imagine last year the results in the regular season probably far exceeded your expectations. Given all the change here this year, is it realistic or fair to say it's now more of a long-term view of what those expectations are?
I mean, we feel pressure from our fan base virtually every day to try to improve our club. That doesn't change from season to season. The expectation is that we deliver a team that at least makes the playoffs. And how's the old saying go? It's not necessarily the best team that wins the Stanley Cup, but it's the team that's playing the best hockey that wins the Stanley Cup, and that was certainly true last year. Again, the pressure, the expectation. We're the Boston Bruins. We're original 16. We're celebrating our 100th anniversary. I think everyone here understands the gravity of the opportunity and the gravity of what we have in front of us in this upcoming season.
Scott. Charlie, along the lines of events, it's been a long time since there's been any All-Star game in Boston. Now with the NHL wanting to package the draft with it, the draft of the off-season or All-Star during the season, is that something that you want to target to have one of those two here?
We'd love to have an event, whether it's I'd be remiss if I didn't say and mention that we've had a number of special events, including the Winter Classic last year here in Boston. So we raise our hand for those type of events as often as we can with the league, and frankly, last week the National Hockey League, when we were at the Board of Governors, they mentioned that they're trying to perhaps rethink the draft. I may get in trouble for saying this. I'm not sure if that's public yet. And if that's in fact the case, listen, there are opportunities. This is such a hockey-centric market, and such a rich history here. Any opportunity that we can find to bring the sport here, we'll do it.
Jimmy?
Hey, Don, I forgot to ask you before. Any update on Jake DeBrusk right now in the contract talks?
No, ongoing discussions. That's all I will comment on at this point in time.
Hey, Cam, just going back to McAvoy, you got the pleasure of playing with a cornerstone defenseman, so to speak, in Ray Bourque. Do you see any similarities in what they bring on and off the ice?
Starting to see a lot, yeah. I mean, when we talk about leadership, it's something you can't really force. You can't hope that someone's going to be a leader because maybe they're one of your better players. Someone has to kind of come up and emerge and show you that they want to be a leader, but show you because of what they're doing both on and off the ice. And Charlie's certainly doing that. He can log big minutes like Ray could. Defensively is strong. Offensively is the area that where he's lagging a little bit from where Bourque was. Charlie, I think we'd all like to see him shoot the puck more because he does have a good shot. I think he'd be more dangerous if he shoots the puck more, and that's one thing that Ray loved to do, is shoot the puck. So someone that stands in front of the net and takes a beating, waiting for that puck to come, it's kind of nice when it does come. So, but that's really, I see a lot of similarities between the two players you mentioned, but it's the offense is not quite where Ray's was.
For Don and Jim, just going back to DeBrusk for a sec. Don, what has stood out about DeBrusk's involvement both on and off the ice since the trade request? And Jim, what did you learn about coaching DeBrusk in your first year here? I think
Jake has matured both on and off the ice and gone through some ups and downs associated with that. I think the last year coming back from two separate injuries, was important for our hockey club, important for Jake, because sometimes you'd seen him dip when he came back in those situations, and he really didn't. So I think the drive is there. I think the confidence in his game as a two-way player, being incorporated, and probably play even more so the penalty kill, is a real, feather in Jake's cap and the coach's cap to see it. He's got great hockey sense. He has the tools to be an impactful player, and it's always been about consistency with Jake. We all see it. He just you expect to see it on an absolute nightly basis, and he's getting closer to that.
I think when I think of Jake, what I've learned about him is there's three things that makes him so valuable to our team. One is his swagger. He has this quiet confidence that comes off in, like, I only heard it a few times, but I think the players hear it a lot. Like, he brings humor at the appropriate times that lets everybody know that everything's gonna be okay. Like, he has a quiet, confident swagger to him that really helps our group. I think two is that his best games come from when he's really tenacious on pucks, forechecking, stripping people from behind, or playing fast defensively, which creates offense. I think he's always dangerous offensively, but that makes him really dangerous, more so. He gets more chances when he's like that. You know, and the third thing was that communication with him is important. Letting him know his value to the team and how important it is, and that those details I just talked about, how much they help the Bruins be successful.
Got time for one more if there is.
Don, you targeted Jesper Boquist in free agency. What led you to the decision to step away from him and waive him before the season?
We liked Jesper. You know, the role that he played in New Jersey, has versatility to his game, has speed in his game. Bottom line is both Matty and Johnny, you know, had really strong camps, and you know, we've always been committed, you know, as an organization, not to rush players, but when players have made impact in our lineup and they deserve an opportunity, they've earned an opportunity. It's not about deserving one. It makes really hard conversations, you know, with veteran players, and it's not an easy business in that regard at all, and very uncomfortable, because you do have really, you know, good conversations when you're talking about bringing a player into the fold and where you see it, and then you have a little unpredictability as it relates to younger players taking advantage of their opportunity, and but again, it's earned.
Thanks, everybody.